On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are talking about Prodigy 1x06 Kobayashi after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on the Star Trek conversation being had by two lifelong friends since they were 6 years old. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
How you doing tonight, Dave?
Man, I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched this episode.
And now you're great.
Now I'm great.
Right? What a great episode.
You know, I said on Twitter, this is possibly the best episode of Star Trek I have seen in the past year. What I didn't say, maybe says Trials and Tribbleations.
That is very much showing the kind of Star Trek you like.
I mean,
those are two very, very singular episodes. They're like episodes that grab pieces of content from other Star Trek and infuse them into new Star Trek.
Look, man, I love a good, like we said last week, I love a good episode where we're debating big moral questions and I love all that. But man, there are lots of people who just completely shit on fan service.
Sure.
And if it's real bad, I could see, like, if it's like, oh God, that's so stupid.
Right.
There may have been a pinch of that here.
Sure.
Thank you. I'll take it. I loved this.
No, but this thing is like fan service. There's nothing wrong with fan service. Serving the fans. Like, that's the point of making content.
I am a fan. Service me.
Yeah, please service me. I don't want you to like shove a character from way back in a scene that's like incredibly, salient and important for like Michael Burnham or something. You know, like there are moments to do it. And this episode is like, and just like Trials and Tribbleations, those episodes are designed to be fan service in a way that's still like a fun episode on its own, and this was a great episode, and it was actually really wonderful for Dahl, right? I'm spacing on his name because it's been so long, but I think this episode's wonderful for his character. Like, he actually learns the lesson of the Kobayashi Maru, which was kind of neat. We've never seen a character like really get a chance to learn that live. I mean, except for in like Star Trek, what is it, Star Trek 2?
Star Trek 2, yeah.
Yeah, but that's like, it's not a character we really know at that point. So it's just nice to see that and kind of learn it in an interesting way, because he did the Kobayashi Maru. He was stubborn, and like that's a thing we know about Dahl, and it's like he had to do it 50 times before he'll realize. And actually, it's kind of funny. This actually mirrors very well a Lower Decks episode recently where the main character did a test 50 times trying to get through it and get through it perfectly. Very similar, actually. And then Dahl still couldn't achieve it, you know?
Because they had done that on Lower Decks, I really was expecting Dahl to, like, reprogram it so that he could win. Like, I was expecting that scene, like, how do you even beat this thing? And like, oh, it's a no-win scenario. I was expecting him to try to cheat and then be like, look what I beat, the Kobayashi Maru. I guess I am the captain. I expected that. They did not go that way, but I expected it.
Oh, yeah. No, I fully expected him not to be able to beat it. Basically what happened. And it was wonderful to see the way his like crew is mutinying on him, like trying to complete the Kobayashi Maru and seeing like, these characters that we love, Odo, Crusher, Uhura, and Spock all just yelling at him.
And Scotty.
Not really Scotty yelling at him, but so good. It's just so much fun. And were they all using audio from previously recorded? I know that Spock's and Uhura's were all from previous from episodes of the original series and all over the place.
Gates McFadden was doing Crusher.
Okay. Like new versions of Crusher.
Yes.
Okay. And obviously Renee has passed, but I'm assuming this wasn't recorded before his death.
Right. No, that I actually have a list of all the places they got it from.
Interesting, because Odo's lines, I gotta say, seem to fit well to the point that, like, I thought they were new.
Yeah, no, they weren't. They weren't.
Interesting.
But yeah, Nichelle Nichols is not passed, but she is in a place of health where she would not have been able to do it.
Right, and the voice would have been so very different. Even Gates, I felt like, was different.
Yeah, and we got a little bit of that with Spock, where it was very clear when they switched over. I mean, besides me just knowing the material.
Yeah, exactly.
Far beyond what was healthy.
When it jumped from the original series to the Kelvin timeline, it was like, whoa, that audio quality, yo.
Not Kelvin timeline. The Star Trek movies, they didn't hit the Kelvin timeline.
Oh, did they not? That last line when he says, "You did this is very much like a captain I once knew."
No, that's was from Unification 2. That's from TNG.
Oh, you're totally right. You're totally right. I was thinking it was from when he's in the cave with Kirk in the Kelvin timeline. He says something kind of similar.
No, it's when he's in the cave with Picard.
Oh, sorry. Wrong cave.
Yeah. But yeah, no, when they switch over to like TNG and Star Trek 2, like that was just like, his voice got old.
It worked though from because it's the computer, and they kind of like made it work where he's like a robot man almost. Like they clearly like they could only do so much because they're pulling from episodes. They probably didn't even have the original audio. They probably had to like strip out music and do all kinds of things to make that work, strip out sound effects.
I've seen little documentaries and stuff about how they remastered it for Blu-ray, but the original series, but I don't remember if they had like the stems and whatever. Like I don't know. They may have had to like, but for sure, some of those audio clips did not match the quality of the modern recording. Right. And it was obvious.
They also, some of them don't match very well the situation. They pulled a couple that were stretches.
There were a couple.
I forget what the ones that I'm thinking of, but it still worked. I still loved it.
Yeah, like one of Uhura's I know was just like, well, that seemed a little dramatic for what was, never mind.
By the way, we normally try to do a recap, so if you're listening to this in the distant future, we've gone on a while without saying so, but this is the episode where Dahl does the Kobayashi Maru and gets visited by, ghosts of Star Trek past, as it were.
That's a way to put it.
Dude, seeing the Enterprise D rendered in this beautiful animation was like emotional for me. Like him sitting on the leather of the chair and like slouching in the leather of the chair and seeing Scotty appear next to him, like all that was just so cool.
Yeah, I was like, I felt bad because I was like, God, the Enterprise D just never looked this good,
right? this is, you always talk about animation, whatever. This looks way better than Next Generation, way better.
I don't talk about animation, whatever.
Sure, a lot of people do though.
That's your grown-up hang-up.
This animation's particularly good though. It's really well this style, and I mean, animation's just getting better, especially TV animation, particularly when you have to make a lot of episodes in the past, has been lower quality. But the way they're able to do 3D animation these days, and motion capture, and combine all these aspects of motion capture and 3D rendering, and like just really good textures, like it's really, really neat the way they pulled this off. It's pretty badass.
I do have a question about, like, because he says, they're telling him pick his crew and he can't decide, he doesn't know anybody. He's like, just give me some of the best. I want to know, like, there's like my geek heart is going yay, but then like my nerd heart is going, wait a minute, what is the criteria
for best?
for best, how are they choosing these people? When did Odo become a part of Starfleet? Are we talking about just Starfleet officers, or just people that the computer knows of? Because I know the real reason is we want to pay tribute to Renee, and that's amazing and wonderful, and I get it, and that's fantastic. But why was he there? Right. That's my question.
Well, I'll headcanon it and say, we've joked we've joked / theorized on Picard particularly how all of this stories that we've watched on Picard, they've all grown up with those same stories because they've been turned into holonovels and such. Like, and it's clear that that's the truth on Picard. Picard, like people know his stories, they know his missions and stuff because there are now holonovels about his days as captain. And I just have to assume that that's true of all of the series that we love. And so that way it makes sense that Boimler loves the same people we do, and it makes sense that like I just have to imagine now that like in the world of Star Trek, there's some of the most popular series of holonovels are called Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, Next Generation. Like I have to imagine those are like the most popular series of holonovels, and that's why these people know the same crew. And in that case, if you get to this point and they're like, just give me some of your best. It's probably based on algorithmic, similar to like how you do iTunes these days. Like, who are most people picking? And they just throw it in there.
Yeah, and they chose based on the ship in the program that they chose, which apparently was the Enterprise D.
Yeah, and,
yeah, exactly. Just kind of branched out from there.
Totally makes sense to me.
And if I have seen some pushback from people. Not about this episode. I haven't seen anything negative about this episode except someone complaining about how much fan service it was. But
sure,
I have seen a lot of pushback about the idea that all of these things that we've watched were fictionalized at some point in the Star Trek universe. And I would like to point out, as I have before, Gene Roddenberry was the first one to do that in like Kirk's little prologue in Star Trek: The Motion Picture novelization.
Just the novelization,
yeah. But it was written by Gene Roddenberry,
sure.
And he, Kirk in there talks about how like people, overplay the events of his life because of dramatizations that have been made available. So basically people in the Star Trek universe are watching TV shows about Star Trek.
I feel like some of that is him saying like, maybe if the tone is a little different and the movies are a little more realistic than those kind of teleplays you watched, that's because those are the dramatizations you were watching. Now let's get to the real stuff in the movie.
Yeah, I considered that, but it is an idea that Roddenberry himself championed for some amount of time anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you remember in Logan how they have the X-Men comics exist in Logan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
I love Logan. That's like the only reason I don't want Hugh Jackman to show up in the MCU. I'm like, no, he had a swan song.
He had his swan song. After, not to derail us, but after No Way Home, I'm just like, do anything you want. I am so like, do anything you want with that level of thoughtfulness, and I am in. Like, just do anything.
Kevin Feige hook the car battery up to my nipples.
Feed me 121 gigawatts if that's what it takes, baby.
Just as long as you're paddling me while we're doing it, that's fine. Spank me, daddy. I have been bad.
All right. Let's get back to I feel like every time we talk about the children's show, we get into a weird place.
It's not relegated to the children's show.
Yeah, if anything, this is probably the most fan servicey of old fans. This show has had a lot of reference. I mean, clearly, I said that like it was like even a contest, but like every other episode of this particular show has been very, standalone of its own. And then this episode was super referential of other Star Trek, it was in such a fun way. And I'm really curious to see what like my niece thinks of this episode because, it's will she like these characters that are popping up? Will she know about them? Will she like Mr. Spock and his super pinch,
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see. Or will it just be like, who were those guys? And why did they sound weird?
If she even notices.
Yeah, no, I think other than Spock and Uhura didn't speak as much. Other than Spock and Uhura, everybody else sounded great.
I think most of the time everyone sounded great. There were just a few instances where it was like, ooh, that archive audio is not great.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's okay. I don't mind.
It's funny that he tries to high five Spock. Or he does high five Spock.
He does high five Spock. Absolutely.
And Spock, I love the glance at the Spock gives him the live long and prosper, and he high fives him, and there's just like right before he disappears, there's just a glance at the high five of sort of annoyance.
Dug it.
It's really good.
It was fantastic.
Yep. Great episode. It really achieved its goals. And here's the other thing is, I watched it twice. And on after the first watching, I was like, man, that was a very focused episode. Like, it was really about, like, it started out, I was thinking there was going to be a lot more going on. There's all this other stuff happening in the background, but, like, it really stayed focused on the Kobayashi Maru. And then I went back and thought about it, and a lot of stuff happened this episode. We found out about Chakotay was the captain of the Protostar. That's crazy. We found out that there was another crew. That's a big deal. We found out the mission is somehow corrupted. They don't know what the mission is. They also know that like they break down Janeway's like memories, and it's written in the code of Gwen's people, which is like not possible. And like we've discussed some of these theories about like how are her people connected with Starfleet, and what does the Protostar mean? And like, seems like we're really getting into that mystery this episode. And then also the freaking bad guy, for lack of a better term, because I can't remember his name right now, gets another progeny.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
That's the point of confusion I've seen online, and a lot of people are missing that when they went to that scene. It said 17 years ago. So we were watching the birth of Gwen.
Oh, no, I didn't see that at all.
Yeah. So he doesn't have another one. That was the conversation leading up to
the birth of
him
Gwen.
Deciding to birth her, basically. So at that point, 17 years ago, they had already been looking for the Protostar.
Okay. Yeah, no, I totally missed that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to rewatch that scene because I totally didn't get that was 17 years ago. Okay. Yeah. I thought you made another progeny, and I was like, are we going to get some sort of like one that's sort of loyal to him and one that isn't? And now she's going to have to kind of fight her sister or brother or something. I don't know what they're trying to do here. It seemed weird, but that makes a lot more sense, but it seems really out of place to put it in the middle of this episode.
Well, it makes sense because right before that, Gwen is talking to the what's the thing's name? The
Murph?
No. The ball. The
XO or XZ or
whatever.
The ball.
I can't now. I'm under pressure and I can't remember anything. Like but she's
been too long. It's been like 6 weeks and we've completely forgotten all the names. I was feeling super proud of myself when we were watching this show because I was like, I know everybody's name. And then we came back to it and I was like, I don't know anyone's name anymore. It's been 6 weeks.
Medusan. She's the Medusan.
Yes.
The Medusan. Probably Star Trek fans going, you idiot! But no, she's talking to her about like, I don't understand why my father would have had me in the first place, and like what would be so important about this ship that he would choose it over me, and then they're like, well, we'll find the answers together, and then it fades right into 17 years earlier where the diviner is talking to Dreadnought about how he's been searching for this thing, but they said 17 years ago. Now, the interesting thing about that, though, is when though they never said it on screen, in the press release, they said that the year was 2383.
Okay.
Man, like, I don't know how this timeline is going to work. Like, if he's been looking for it for 17 years, that means that if the year they said in the press release was accurate, that means that Chakotay took the Protostar back 5 years before Voyager got home.
Well, we've discussed the idea of possible time travel with this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That seems weird.
I mean, we got people already screaming continuity error, but,
Yeah, but we just don't know yet.
What's on screen is canon. 2383 was never said on screen.
That's right. I've been like really curious if this is going to be like in the distant future, like it could be out in Discovery's time for all I know. Mm-hmm. Now that we know about the crew, I feel like this next episode we might get some like answers as to what happened to them, and maybe some more of this, even if we just get a little bit more of this video of Chakotay or this holo of Chakotay or whatever.
I screwed up. I'm looking at this, and Chakotay would have been taking the protostar back. If he actually had been looking for 17 years, Chakotay would have had to have taken the protostar back 5 years before Voyager was thrown into the Delta Quadrant in the first place.
Right. Okay.
And then it's been, so this would be like 5 years after Voyager comes home.
Well, what if it could be, hear me out now, that a young Chakotay.
I mean, he looked pretty young. He
really did. A young Chakotay. Well, no, that doesn't. Then why would Janeway be his number one? Never mind. That makes no sense.
Well, it wasn't Janeway. It was the hologram Janeway.
Right. No, still, I was just trying to throw out a theory that like young Chakotay was like the captain of the protostar before his Maquis rebellion stuff, but doesn't make sense if there's a holo Janeway on the ship. Unless he was always dreaming of Janeway. He wrote a holo. I don't know. That's why he trusted her in the end.
No.
Oh, no, man. I'm making it work. Don't worry.
No, you're not. That said, they should have wound up together in Voyager. That was some bullshit.
Yeah, well, whether they ended up together or not, like the throwing her with Seven in one episode felt weird.
Yeah, like it was in the last episode too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you really have time for that? Ain't nobody got time for that.
Come on, Checkers. You got time to be messing around with that Borg lady.
What'd you call him?
Checkers.
All right.
It was a thing because it's kind of like Chakotay. It was just something that came to me like years and years and years ago, many years ago, thousands of years ago. Back when I was on the old Rihansu Romulan AOL message boards, and Voyager was airing first air. Basically, I had a thing where I was like, Chakotay did nothing again this episode. I swear if Riker is chess, then Chakotay is checkers. And then I just started calling him Checkers, and I did for years. So that just slipped out.
I like it.
I didn't.
I like it. It's funny because I've never heard you call him Checkers, and we've talked about Star Trek offcast for years, and now for 2 years oncast.
All we've ever done is just talk about like how great DS9 is, or how great the original series. We've never really talked about Voyager other than say like
not much. We talked a good bit about it, especially. We were prepping for, we mostly talked about 7 of 9, but we talked about it a good bit prepping for Picard.
Yeah, but just a weird throwback. I haven't thought about it in a long time either.
Yeah, it's funny.
I just called him Checkers for a second. I forgot. Like, oh yeah, I'm 38, not like 17.
It's weird when that happens. It's weird when, you suddenly just are thrown back a decade or two.
Yeah.
I've done it myself. Okay, well, can't, just nothing negative to say about this episode. Really fun.
No. Fantastic.
Really, really fun. A lot of big things going on. Oh, any other ideas about Murph? Now that we know that Murph can, take in a bunch of energy that should disintegrate him.
No.
And, turn it into a light and then just, absorb it.
I don't know that he turned it into a light. I think it just exploded inside of him.
Right, but it didn't come out as heat or or concussive blast or anything. It just a light emitted from his belly out of his mouth. So he's doing some sort of conversion there.
Yeah. So I don't they've said, it's a big reveal what Murph is. I don't know. I can't.
No,
it doesn't look like the one picture we have of a Danubian slime devil. So, and that's what everybody keeps saying online. But we have not one non-canon picture of a Danubian Slando. Actually, it's not non-canon. I think it was like on a poster in sick bay in the original series somewhere.
Huh.
But
I say it's one of Odo's people that never did like just got, hasn't been, is still working out its whole shape-shifting thing.
Okay. Well,
it's my throw out. That's my guess.
I don't think that at all, but okay.
Yeah, no, especially after what he did this time. I don't think Odo has that ability in any way.
Yeah, who knows?
I think it's going to be something fun, though. Oh, man. Good stuff.
I hope so.
Great stuff. I'm looking forward to next week's.
Yeah. I don't know that it can top it.
No, I think, especially for you, I think this is going to be your favorite episode of the series.
It might be.
Like you said, nothing's been
in some way
this good since Trials and Tribulations. Like, this is so up your alley. And man, bask in today for you saw a great Star Trek episode.
Yeah, man, I do. And to be fair, all these new shows, they do reference stuff a lot more than the old stuff used to, I feel like. But,
yeah, you're probably right.
So, I mean, I know Lower Decks definitely does.
Oh, for sure. But what's fun is being able to do those references and it still be. I mean, this felt almost like a Lower Decks episode, with the amount of references and just but in a way that still felt like a fun adventure story. And sometimes Lower Decks feels that way, and sometimes it feels like a just a silly laugh fest, which is great, man. What a time to be a Star Trek fan, that we're just watching Star Trek every week. It's just crazy. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Which we might be interrupted. Did you see the news about Star Trek Picard that just came out?
What happened?
They came back to work after Christmas break on a Monday, and 50 people tested positive for COVID, so that's been shut down for a minute. Yeah,
dude, COVID is. I guess for the podcast to know, I currently have COVID. I have almost everyone I know has COVID right now, or tons of people within 1 or 2 degrees of separation of me right now. It's just in my life, everyone has COVID, and then on top of that, you said, I think I watched Colbert today, and Colbert was like, "Yep, I'm on the air, but I guess just barely," because it was actually a pretty good joke. He said, Seth Meyers shut down because Seth has COVID. Jimmy Kimmel shut down because Jimmy has COVID. He named 4 of the hosts, and they all currently have COVID. Mm-hmm. Then he said, "I don't know what's going on with Conan. That's the longest case of COVID I've ever seen." Pretty good. Pretty good joke.
That is good. It is good.
But yeah, no, it's it's just crazy. Even at that level of people trying to protect them and trying to protect their their own safety, so they can make these multi-million-dollar shows. 4 of the 5 big late night hosts all have COVID.
Yeah,
it's just nuts, man.
Yeah. Sucks.
It's Omicron, and it sounds like Omicron's less hospitalizing by case number. It's less percentage of people are getting hospitalized, but it's still people that aren't vaccinated are getting hospitalized to the point that it's still putting a lot of stress on the hospitals.
Yeah.
So and that's always been the issue, man. It's not so much the this, but it's not that people can't be saved from COVID, the ventilators and the this and that. Now that we've had years to prepare and stuff, but yeah, when the hospitals get overrun like this, people start getting turned away from all kinds of other stuff, and we've all got family that's older, and it's man, my mom's been in and out of the hospital, and these last few months have been hard to get her into the hospital some days because COVID's just got everything maxed out,
Yep.
She lived in a hallway for a week. Her first week after her fall, she was in a hallway. I think it was 3 days in a hallway, and then she was still in the ER for another day or 2 because couldn't. Yeah, it's crazy, man. So hopefully this will all get better, and And my case of COVID was pretty mild. I was kind of knocked on my ass for about 4 days, but it just like flu-like symptoms. Nothing. I wasn't like close to death or anything.
Yeah.
Oh man, crazy times.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what to say about it other than get vaccinated.
Yes, everybody, please get vaccinated. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with me and talking Star Trek, Dave.
Yeah, man. By the way, I loved the in memory of Rene Auberjonois, James Doohan, and Leonard Nimoy, who inspire us to go boldly at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
I loved that.
That's beautiful.
That got me.
You know what's
that hit me in my heart hole, man.
Heart hole. You know,
it's the hole where my heart used to be.
You know, it had to be like a hard decision when they're making that at the end to like. It's the. I just heard it's the hole where my heart used to be. Like when they're making that, like not that because she's close to death, but Nichelle Nichols is also elderly and has, made this Star Trek for a long time. So it's like, I wonder if they're like making that like, how do we say this without implying that she's dead too? Or like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I wondered if they chose her for the episode because they thought she might be by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
Just slap her name on there.
It's pretty likely. But that's a bummer.
She beat the odds.
But I mean, they had Gates McFadden on there, who is not, not in that. I don't know, favorite security chief. I was really hoping for a little Worf to show. I kind of was hoping them to cycle through people, I guess. But I mean, it was really nice to see these four and get to like a bunch of them, and get this much Odo in an episode. I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah,
I loved it.
Man, if I could, I would just hug Renee right now.
Yeah, man. Great actor, did great things on the show.
And he'd probably say to me, 6 feet.
Yep. And I'd feel like Quark, and all would be right with the world.
I love that he came. Did you ever watch that Stewie Family Guy movie? The Untold Story or whatever?
No.
There's a great bit in there, because Seth MacFarlane loves Star Trek. You know this.
Yes, I do.
They had a great bit in there where Stewie says something about his cousin Quark. And then it cuts to Quark's bar and Stewie as Quark. And Rene Auberjonois actually did the voice. And he's Odo, and he's standing and he says, "What are you up to, Quark?" And he's like, "I don't know nothing, man." He's like, "Quark, I'm on to you, Quark. Leave me alone. I don't know nothing."
I think you've told me that before. It's really good. I really want to see. I'm excited about the Orville coming back.
One final season, huh? Right?
I don't think they've officially announced that yet. They moved it off of TV, and now it's only going to be on Hulu, which I think seemed to bode. I think it had been announced as one more season at one point, but then they instead decided to move it to Hulu, which kind of gave it a new life. And then COVID hit, and it's been like 2 years in the making. So now who knows? It's been 3 years, and they could get another chance at life if it does well on Hulu. So I highly recommend if you love this stuff, like go check out Orville. It's like, a lot of people like it because it's so much like classic Star Trek. Right. With some Seth MacFarlane humor thrown in, which I actually find refreshing. Like, it can be distracting, especially in the first season. Season, they're still working on that balance. And my theory is that Fox was like, make a Seth MacFarlane spaceship show. And he's like, no, I just want to make Star Trek. Yeah. And they're like, no, make a Seth MacFarlane, lots of dick jokes. And he's like, all right, I'll give you your dick jokes if you give me my moral ambiguity. And after hearing him in some interviews, it seems like he really cares about the stuff that I really care about on these shows. There's more of those like long, boardroom talk scenes about like the moral, rightness of a thing than there are in like current Star Trek. I love it. But then the jokes, they're still there for sure all throughout, and it becomes more about like the people are just real people. It's less about like let's make this a silly parody. It's more about like it's like a Starfleet type organization. It's the distant future, but we're still people. Like humans are still humans. They're still pulling pranks on each other. They're still they're still talking about their dating lives and stuff. And it's just not, it's like Star Trek, but not sort of like over sanitized or whatever.
Yeah. I know there was a whole thing where he actually pitched to CBS doing a Star Trek series.
Yes.
And they shot him down because they're idiots.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically when that news came out, there was rioting on the social medias of Star Trek fans. Oh, I can't, no, I'd never watch a Star Trek show with that. And I feel like a lot of those same people, I know several of them at least that I have kept track of, now are claiming, the Orville is a better Star Trek series than any of this new shit that's coming.
Yes, it is more like traditional Star Trek than any of the stuff that we're watching for this show. Any of the officially made Star Trek stuff that's happening right now, it is more like the original stuff.
Or TNG, really. I feel like it seems more like TNG.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely of that era more than. I mean, it has elements of all of it, and there's a little more serialization than TNG.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's like a really good balance, and obviously the humor is like a whole different aspect that just Star Trek's never had in this kind of way.
I have been considering giving it another shot.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely worth it. Get past the fourth or fifth, third episode. I think is called About a Girl.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when the show finds a voice that it needs, and it continues to have that voice. It's weird, but like I said, I think there's this struggle going on between the producers where they're like, no, it needs to have more dick jokes, and he's like, but I'll make it funny, but I just want to keep making it, I want to make it feel real at the same time,
Yeah.
And So sometimes it's successful at that, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little over, especially the first season. The sophomoric humor gets less and less as it goes on.
Yeah. Like, I thought it had been canceled, but yeah, I just looked it up, and it's there. He's saying it's not yet. So weirdly, I have a tendency to like want to support a show after it goes exclusively to streaming. Because I do. I think streaming is the future. And
sure,
there's such a pushback. People are still so concerned with live ratings and saying, oh, well, this is going to be canceled because the ratings are bad. And, it's one of those things with the CW shows as well, where they're like, oh, the ratings are terrible. Why haven't they canceled it yet? And I'm like, because they do really good numbers on streaming. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
And, like a CBS show that I can point to as well is the David Boreanaz show SEAL Team, which doesn't seem like it would be my cup of tea, but it's actually really good storytelling.
And it's got David Boreanaz, so you're going to give it a shot,
Yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty damn good. And I didn't give it a shot until like my wife was watching it, and I wound up sitting in and being like, wait, so what's his deal? Oh, shit.
Who's that guy?
And like, it's actually a really good show. And it's funny because last year they got canceled and they got picked up exclusively by Paramount Plus. So like the first like 3 or 4 episodes were going to air on CBS, and then they were going to, while they were advertising to their fans, we are going to go exclusively to Paramount Plus. And like the first episode there on Paramount Plus, so, like Boreanaz drops like 5 or 6 F-bombs.
Oh, wow.
Like they went full throttle. It's way more, violent. They curse a lot more. One of the guys told another guy to suck a bag of dicks. And I'm like, oh, they got, man, okay. They're leaning into this hard.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm streaming is the future. Network television is clearly the past.
Oh, for sure.
Let's move this along. I'd like to support things that are on streaming exclusively.
Well, and it's also what you talked about last week, which is like the CW effect, where they focus too much on the episodic, and you're just like, oh, just stop it, just stop. We know he's just gonna shoot this guy with an arrow at the end. Like, it's fine. Let's move along. We need to get to the next. We need to get to the next beat in the storyline. We don't care about the villain of the week or whatever. And that's, I mean, to be honest, that's been a complaint since Buffy. And we're talking, what is that, like 30 years now?
Yeah.
How many years ago is that? 20 years, something like that? And we were, complaining about it way back then. And it's like, it's still a problem. And streaming, that's not really what people do in streaming. And so, I'm excited. But yeah, the Orville, I think it'll continue to have an episodic feel, but they've already done things that are really bold. Serialized storyline.
You're saying they're going boldly.
They are going boldly into new and interesting storylines. They really did some serialized stuff with Orville, like seasons, whatever. I mean, like I am so excited about where it ended in season 2 to see where that could go. You know what I mean? Like, it's like genuinely really excited. And then that's just cool because it started as very much a sophomoric humor sort of show, but it's built a world now. And like, I'm about as excited about where the Orville universe goes as I am the Star Trek universe, which is a lot to say,
Yeah.
Because like they're dealing with like the geopolitics of what's going on out in the world with different alien races and stuff. And like, now I have a good sense of who all of the players are. And like, he like got to create his own Star Trek universe from scratch. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's probably better than if he was constrained to have to deal with like the universe in of itself.
Yeah. I do think his tone put on over Star Trek could have been weird, but like I feel like if they let him do it his way, he might have been able to pull it off, because like what he's doing now on the show feels a lot more like it would have fit into the Star Trek universe than what he was doing for season 1.
Well, I mean, if they just let him do an honest to Seth Star Trek, he may not even had all those jokes and shit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Instead of it needing to be sold as a Seth MacFarlane funny show, it could have just been sold as a, hey, come watch the Star Trek show and it's going to be good. Man, I'm pumped. Anyway, that starts in March, I think. We're finishing we're gonna finish our coverage of season 2 and start season 3 right when it starts for the for PandaVision, our other Stranded Panda show over there.
Okay.
So if you get caught up and you want to join us, let me know. It's fun to have you.
I'm working on Marvel right now.
Truth.
I loved Loki. I'm into What If.
Oh yeah, how far are you in?
I watched Captain Carter and What If Star-Lord was T'Challa or whatever. I loved both of them. I love both of them.
Good. Then you're in for those are both really, really good. Oh gosh. Yeah. What if T'Challa was Star-Lord is like so insulting to Peter Quill. Just so dang insulting.
That damn cliffhanger with Peter Quill working at the DQ, working at the Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's a story for another time. I'm like, holy shit.
Just so you know, like, and this is something they came out with about right now when What If was going on, and everybody was so excited about the different characters, and everybody starting to like stamp the Captain Carter shield on things and stuff. They announced around that time that they will absolutely be revisiting some of these worlds in season 2.
That's awesome.
And they said specifically in that thing that they would be revisiting the Captain Carter world. And so like once I started hearing that after they released the first couple episodes and they started announcing that, it's just like the idea that they could tell these stories and any of these multiverse worlds exist and could be revisited. Is so cool.
To be clear, man, if they do an Avengers movie with a multiverse thing going on and we get Captain Carter running around with Sam as Captain America, like I want a live action Haley Atwell as Captain Carter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There have been discussions of that a lot ever since that episode came out. People just like bring her back. Bring her back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm down for that. Like, I really, really loved what they did with her and with that episode.
What? Have you heard any of the speculation that, like, that they're building... Okay, this could be a spoiler a little bit. It's not a big spoiler. It actually it'll improve your experience, if anything.
Okay.
It's slight Black Widow spoiler for those of you out there. Black Widow does not catch up with Avengers Infinity War. So there's this weird gap between Black Widow and Infinity War where we still don't know what happened. And there's been a lot of speculation of what they'll do. Like, they could still do more Black Widow content, and Black Widow is with Captain America when Infinity War starts. So there's this weird gap where, you know, Black Widow ends and Infinity War starts, and there's this, like, secret Avengers type thing that happens in between, right? Because we know that, like, Cap and you know, his whole crew, all of Team Cap is in hiding, running around, whatever. And then they join Wanda and Vision at that train yard or whatever in Infinity War. But, like, there's been speculation that this has all been sort of like a long game thing with the, like, leaving of Steve Rogers and with the, you know, the Black Widow swan song for Scarlett Johansson, that being their last two movies and all that. Like, there's been some speculation that they could, if they wanted to, like, so let's say the MCU's on rocky footing, they need to bring back some of their heavy hitters. They could do a Secret Avengers movie, and literally they could call it Secret Avengers, clearly. Yeah. And it could slot in between, like, what was going on in between those two things, you know?
Yeah, that would be a real act of desperation, I feel like.
I think more likely than doing a whole movie, they could do something like
a Disney Plus series,
or it could be like, here's some of the events that happened like, sprinkle some of the events that could have happened then. That might inform future events. Like, maybe they mess with some multiverse stuff during that time. Who knows? You know, whatever. Anyway. That's all neither here nor there. But my idea was, as soon as you talked about having a live action Haley Atwell show up, like, I would love to see a Steve Rogers who's been on the road with Nat for like two years, and they've sort of fallen for each other. And there's, like, they finally have their embrace, you know, or whatever. They finally have their moment of passion together, and then, like, a multiverse rift opens up and, like, Captain Carter steps through.
Yeah, it'd be badass.
Right? And she's just like, well, okay, Steve, I guess you've got a new dance partner.
He's like, I haven't danced in 70 years.
It's been a long time, Peggy.
The super soldier serum doesn't just enhance my strength. It also enhances my libido.
Oh, man. Anyway, so, yeah. I think that's kind of a fun idea, though. I'd be down. I'm down for almost anything they want to do. Like, I you know, whatever they want to do. Like, I don't know if they have ideas for that. They clearly left a hole there for a reason. I just don't know what it is. I'm like, I was watching the end of Black Widow, and that's why I say it probably will increase your experience, because I was watching Black Widow being like, all right, now they need to tie it all together. Yeah. She needs to meet up with Cap at the end, because that's where Infinity War starts, and then it just doesn't happen. And I was like, yeah, well, that's annoying. Like, they don't explain how she gets from there to there, and it actually is kind of not obvious. So it's like, what? I don't know. It's annoying.
Yeah, I love how you're like, they left a hole there for a reason. Might as well fill it with Cap's dick, because ScarJo definitely needs a man.
No, I just think that, like, come on,
strong and independent.
Listen. It's him that isn't strong and independent.
He is Captain America. He's nothing but strong and independent.
No, he's just like America.
He only thinks he is.
Only thinks he's strong and independent. But no,
I'm just playing with you anyway.
No, I know. I think that they have a lot of chemistry in Winter Soldier.
They did,
and like it just purely from a chemistry perspective, I was like, that should have happened. Even though I'm kind of glad it didn't, but. Because it lets him leave off with this romance with Peggy, and it would like really kind of mess things up, like with the whole ending with Peggy, if he ended up like hooking up with Black Widow for a couple of years there in the middle.
and then she like buys it on some alien world, and he's like, well, I guess I'm free and clear.
Well, that's the thing. You'd probably have to start that relationship and end that relationship in that movie somehow, and you could totally see it. They're just like on the road for years together, and they have a bit of a fling at some point.
Yeah.
Anyway, but even if they don't have a romantic relationship, still, I think that movie's not a bad idea.
I mean, all of those people are so good looking, man. You're seriously going to tell me that Stark hasn't thrown some like big party and they all haven't hooked up at some point or another? I mean, come on.
Yeah, who knows, man?
Come on.
Come on. Come on. All right. Well, thanks guys for joining us for this podcast about some show that I'm not sure where we started anymore.
Star Trek Prodigy.
Jolan True.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.